Hey, it's Mr. Keys, and today we're going to go over two things involving rhythm, how to count properly, and also a concept known as the tie. So we're going to start with how to count properly. Now, last time, when we looked at counting and clapping, we counted things in this way. So we would take a look at a note, and we would say, okay, this is 2 beats, so it gets to count 1, 2. This is 1 beat, so it gets to count 1. This is 1 beat, so it gets to count 1. But that's not really the way that people count. The usual way that people count is if we're in 4/4 time, what we do is we count to 4 for every single bar. Now, how do we do that? Well, this is what this is going to help us with down here. Now, you can think of these things like chocolate bars. Now, I know chocolate bars aren't blue, but that's the analogy that I tend to use in class, and it works pretty well. So blue is just simply, for color, just to make it look bright. But what we're going to do is we're going to assign every single note or a chocolate bar to every single note. So think about a chocolate bar as 1 beat. A chocolate bar is always a single beat. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to give a chocolate bar to each note. So if a note is 2 beats, it gets 2 chocolate bars. If a note is 4 beats, it gets 4 chocolate bars, and so on. So the first thing, let's take a look at the first bar. So this note is 2 beats. So it gets chocolate bar number 1, and it also gets chocolate bar number 2. Now, every single bar, we only have 4 chocolate bars to give away. So once we're done giving away the first 2, we can no longer give them away again. So when we get to the next note, well, it only gets 1 chocolate bar. So the next chocolate bar that's in line is chocolate bar number 3. So it gets beat 3. And the last chocolate bar goes to the last note in that bar. So when we're counting this, we count 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So when we're clapping this, same thing. We clap evenly. So it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Okay, let's go and do the same thing for the next bar. So in bar 2, the first chocolate bar goes to the first note because it's 1 beat. This one goes to the second note because it's also 1 beat, only gets 1 chocolate bar. And so the last note gets the last 2 chocolate bars. So the same thing, if we're counting this, it's 1, 2, and this gets 3 and 4. And when we're clapping, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, let's move on to the third bar, and this will be the last bar that we do. This is a 4-beat note. It's a whole note. So it gets all 4 chocolate bars, just like before. And so the count would be 1, 2, 3, 4. So it would be 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's how you should count from now on, because this is the more correct way of counting. All right, let's go on to the next concept, which is the tie. Now, a tie looks like this, and essentially it's one note connected to another note, or even many notes. And for now, we're just going to look at the tie in the sense of connecting it to a single note. So this is, you can think of a tie kind of like a train. And here's where the analogy is going. In a train, only this car is the one that drives. With a tie, this is the only note that we clap. So any note that's connected through a tie gets no clap. Okay? So let's say we had more than one notes tied together. So for example, we have a chord note and another chord note and another chord note, and they're all tied together. Well, only this one would get a clap, and these two would get no clap. But the thing is, now you might be asking, okay, well, so what's the point of a tie? Well, we clap this, we don't clap this. Well, it allows us to have much more syncopated rhythms, and rhythms that would be probably a little messier to write if we didn't use a tie. So ties are really useful, and you'll see that in later lessons, how useful they can be in notating a lot of complex rhythms. So when we're clapping a tie, we clap this one, hold for 1 beat, and then we hold this note for 1 beat, but we do not clap it. Okay, so the tie essentially gets rid of the clapping for whatever note is tied to another note. Okay, so let's go and take a look at some examples. And so the same thing, we're going to use our chocolate bars again. And so we know that this one gets 2 chocolate bars. Our second note gets the 3rd chocolate bar, and the 4th chocolate bar goes to this one. Now, so the count is going to be 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now the only thing is, because this note is tied to this note receives no clap, but it still receives a count. So let's go to the second bar, and we'll take a look at how to clap all this together. So the second bar, this guy gets beat 1, this one gets beat 2, and this gets beat 3 and beat 4. So it's still 1, 2, 3, 4. But remember, this one receives no clap. So when we are clapping through this pattern, it's going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and I'll continue on the third bar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so did that make sense? I hope so. So you saw that we had a bunch of ties all the way throughout. So this one is tied to this one is tied to this one. So this gets no clap, and so does this, no clap. Okay, so that's essentially what a tie is. It's pretty simple, and I hope you learned a lot from this lesson.